The internet wants you to know a little about everything,
A headline here, a trending topic there,
just enough to have an opinion.
but never enough to understand.
This is You Know Too Much.
A show about the opposite.
The people who go all the way down the rabbit hole.
The collector,
The overthinker.
the obsessive.
This is You Know Too Much.
I'm Amanda Samuel, and I know too much about vintage fashion.
Welcome to You Know Too Much, the show that teaches you everything you never knew you needed to know about the people, passions, and obsessions shaping our world. I'm Eva McCluskey.
And I'm Pamela Buzik-Kim, and today we're talking about vintage fashion, from luxury labels and timeless craftsmanship to hidden gems tucked away in thrift stores and closets. Vintage clothing offers a unique window into history.
Joining us today is Amanda Samuel, a vintage fashion expert with a passion for uncovering the stories, details, and clues hidden inside garments for decades. Amanda knows way too much about vintage fashion, and by the end of this episode, you will too. Hey, Amanda.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
So happy you're here.
Hey, I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh. And it's gorgeous behind you. Are these all of your frocks?
These are just a little taste of what I have. This is like part of my upcycled collection of my broader vintage pieces.
Amazing. Did you always know that, like, when did you start thinking about vintage? Were you paying attention to it? Was it your original job? Like, how do we get into this?
Yeah, so I started collecting vintage when I was 16. I'm about to turn 40, so many years. And it kind of started as like most good stories do. I had gotten myself in like a little bit of trouble and I had to do community service. And I chose to do my community service at the local Goodwill from where I'm from on Long Island. And on like my first day on the job, I was unpacking these giant garbage bags of clothes and I found this Gucci sweatshirt. And I was like 16. I didn't really know much about fashion at that point, like the history or big brands. And I thought to myself, holy shit, this is crazy. I can't believe I found this. I can't believe someone threw this away. And at the end of my shift, I asked the manager if I could buy it. And they were like, oh yeah, sure, $5. And I was like,
What? Record
okay,
scratch.
I'm coming back tomorrow. Like, vintage was actually in the thrift stores.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to a thrift store and it's, a lot, mostly fast fashion. So it was during like a golden era, but I didn't know that. I was just, it just all happened very accidentally.
Yeah. What's that definition of vintage then?
So most vintage dealers will say somewhere between 20 and 25 years old is the vintage, you can call a garment vintage. But people who really love and collect vintage often will use the term nowadays, will hear the term true vintage. And that's really talking about garments that are made, if I'm being generous, 80s and before. Some people can say like 70s and before. The tags from the 70s are super interesting too, because you see a lot of these like small square paper tabs. They're like, like cardboard.
Yeah.
That's
interesting.
Indicator.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's more about the age of the garment and less about the brand associated with it.
Okay.
Some of my favorite vintage pieces are pieces with no labels on it, handmade during a time where women and people in general, not just women, but they had seamstresses who made clothes. So a lot of these clothes were like homemade, if you will. It's kind of made by a seamstress. And those styles were often dictated by what was happening in the European market. So what was happening in Paris, what was happening in London, what was happening in Italy. Mostly Paris was like the big. And they would send buyers to Paris to see the collections. And then they had these patterns that they would make and they would come back with patterns of the style. And then your seamstress would make you the dress based off of the pattern with the fabric that you chose.
How can you tell, right? If the label and just visually, how do you know when it's from? But also, are we going to be able to have vintage clothes in the future that are produced in the 2000s unless they're luxury? That seems like they're just not going to last.
I mean, I think that eventually the H&M and the Zara pieces will be considered vintage. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's going to depend on who you speak to. But you had asked about how do you know? And
Yeah.
that is the trickiest part of it. First and foremost, we can talk about fabric, right? When you feel a
Okay.
fabric, you can feel the difference between even a fabric like polyester. Then you look at like construction. How is this piece made? And if you take a garment and you put it inside out, there's a couple of things that you can start to notice right away. One of them is how was the fabric cut? Meaning like the ends of the fabric. When you see a fabric, they use fabric shears. When you see different kinds of cuts on a fabric, whether it's a straight cut or whether sometimes you might see this like zigzag.
The zigzag, right?
Yeah, those are called
pinking shears?
pinking shears. Yeah.
Okay.
That's used to stop fabric from fraying, right?
Mhm.
When you use a straight scissor, you'll notice then the pieces kind of fall off.
Mhm.
So that's also a really telltale sign. Then you can look at things like stitching. If you're somebody who is a collector of t-shirts, then you have something called a single stitch or a double stitch. And it's kind of what it sounds like. Is there one line of stitching or is there two lines of stitching? I love that you were like, she's an expert. The only thing that I'm really an expert in is like my curiosity is that, right? It's like every time I find a vintage garment, I learn something new about how I'm defining that it's vintage. The more clothes that you hold on to and you touch, the more you understand the difference. And this is going to sound so woo-woo, but I can almost feel
You
the
could
age
just
of
sense
garment.
it.
And I have to like close my eyes and like, not like, it's from the 50s. Yeah.
Tell us more about hardware and how like the placement of it. That's really interesting to me. Tell us more about that. How does
Also,
that
like,
relate to like when?
Yeah, I'm like, have zippers really changed?
Yeah.
Well, they've changed in the way that they're constructed and what materials they're made out of.
Okay.
Placement. So placement is really a great indicator. Actually, the best indicator of age is if you're thinking about hardware is the lack of a zipper. So if you look at a dress,
Right. Okay.
right, let's start from the Victorian era, like the late 1800s or the early
Yes, please.
1800s. You find a garment from there and you're like, okay, how am I getting into a million little snaps that go on the side of a garment, never exposed on the back, always on the side?
Right.
Okay.
Any place that you see snaps or for children's wear, buttons, where today's world, it would just be a zipper. That's like a great first indicator that this is you're holding on to an old piece of clothing because nowadays
zippers didn't exist yet for
They
clothing or
did, but they were not allowed to be used in women's clothes, only in men's clothes.
Oh.
Yeah. Why? It was vulgar for you to see a woman with a zipper because that would indicate that it's easy to take
off her clothes.
She's a loose lady.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like zipped and laced and not
corseted, right? Yeah.
And then their overlay would always just be something super with little dainty snaps or little buttons going down and tiny Victorian buttons. They're like tiny buttons.
Yeah.
So that's a great indicator of something that you may call a lot of people there's a Victorian era, then there's like the Edwardian era, right? So you might think of white cotton lawn dresses with the little snaps going down the side. And so that's all from that might be from like the Edwardian era or prior. When a zipper became, usable in women's clothing, it was decent, I guess, enough for women's clothing. They would always put them on the side of a garment. And so anytime you see a zipper on the side here, you know that it is from the 1950s or before.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And zippers at that time, because they were made of metal, that's going to be an indicator, a metal zipper with a square zipper pull.
Right. Okay.
Actual teeth are metal and the zipper pull is also metal.
And they were probably heavier.
Yes, they were heavier.
Yeah.
And in order
Interesting.
to be respectful, you would then make like a little gusset, like a little
Like a cover.
little pocket, over the zipper. Yeah, and hot tip for anyone who has a piece of vintage
No.
and it has a metal zipper, when the zippers start to act up and it's not like a smooth zip,
Yeah.
take a piece of like wax from a candle and you run it up and down the zipper, and then it'll go up and down much easier.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
Hot tip.
Lubricate the zipper in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got to lube up those vintage zips.
Yeah.
When did zippers start to become on the back and become made of, like, I assume plastic, I guess?
Yeah. So actually, zippers went to the center back of a garment in the 60s. So late
Okay.
50s, early 60s. So, that's why there's not ever like a hard, fast rule, because clothes were still being made by seamstresses. I would say most garments that were made in the 60s, you can tell because it has a center back metal zipper. Metal zipper.
Okay.
Used in the late 50s to the early 60s. They place them in the center back. Obviously, it's much more convenient for women to get in and out of clothing that way. It
Yeah.
opens it up instead of just, giving you a little extra room. So that is a great indicator that a piece is from the 1960s to the late 50s to the 60s.
Okay.
When did they change material? In the 70s. And the 70s have, like the 60s, a very iconic zipper. The 70s also have a very iconic zipper.
Yeah.
And the zipper, they changed the zippers out. They started making them from acrylic, or like, it wasn't like plastic. I believe it was acrylic.
Okay.
They were acrylic zippers. But the point that you can tell is the actual zipper pull went from being like a rectangle in metal to being like a point at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So the coils are not made of metal. They're made
Right.
of what look like a plastic, but it's,
Acrylic.
yeah, like an acrylic. And then the metal tab is like a pointy pull, and they're ugly. They're like not attractive at all. Almost like it's just
like
like
a V.
it's almost like an upside down triangle, but like not as harsh line.
Okay, so then it's like this weird sort of slendery, pointy thing with acrylic. Okay, and they're mostly on the back. Is there more to the history of the zipper?
Yeah, and
does
then
it get further?
Again, the zipper changes again, and in the like 80s, and then really in the 90s and in the Y2K, you'll see the rise of the invisible zipper. And that's like the zipper that you see today. It's got a thin little pull, but the key is that when you actually go to zipper it, it makes like a seam.
Like an elevator.
It's like, it almost looks like a perfect like seam just going down instead of the actual hardware.
Oh, interesting.
That didn't happen until the 90s?
It happened in the 80s, like in the later 80s.
Okay.
The thing about the 80s, which is so tricky, is that that's when mass manufacturing started, like in the late 70s into the 80s, right? That's when women started joining the workforce.
Right.
So clothing became more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
In order for clothing to become more accessible, it has to be made quicker, cheaper, and in more sizes.
Right.
Right.
That was kind of
Interesting.
like the rise of the invisible zipper. I love a metal zipper because I know that it means history.
Yeah.
But and one of the things that are kind of tricky is when you find a garment, oftentimes the zippers are like the first thing people change because they break, right?
Right.
You might have a dress from the 60s with an invisible zipper and you're like, oh my God, what era is it?
Oh, right. Because it's been altered.
It's been altered. It's been changed.
And that's the zipper pull I was thinking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's often kind of shaped like a giant grain
I
of
feel
rice
for
or
like my
something.
big clunky hands. I'm like,
The zipper in the 70s, I said acrylic, but I think it's actually nylon is the correct. I knew it was coming to me. I think I
Nylon.
said acrylic.
Yep.
okay, amazing.
I believe it.
What's the difference between upcycling and vintage?
Okay, cool. Upcycling is when you take a garment, and whether it's a new garment or an old garment, and you're changing it, you're reworking it, and you're turning it into something new. I upcycle, which is like what's behind me here, men's button downs. I
Mm.
rework the shape. I add ostrich feathers that are detachable. And then I resell that garment as a whole new piece.
Oh, cool.
Or a tablecloth. That's a great example. Like,
Yeah.
I've made dresses from tablecloths before, which like I found this beautiful tablecloth and now
So
I'm like,
cool.
wow, who
That's
uses
awesome.
crocheted tablecloths anymore?
Yeah.
Truly.
Honestly,
it.
like, I mean, I think we should bring that back, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I put my pattern, I made a pattern and I laid it down on the tablecloth and I cut a whole dress from the fabric and upcycled. I took something that was a tablecloth and now is a dress.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So good.
So
That's
cool.
fun. Yeah, it's fun.
That's so cool.
People
And so-
are so cool online doing really interesting things with upcycling. We're inspired by that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And so then is vintage just like more, like you said, more intentional, more curated? You're finding it, you're specifically dating it, identifying it in that realm?
Yes, all of those things, but the most important driving factor is the age of the garment.
The age.
How
Okay.
old is the garment? If it's not 20 years or older, you really can't call it vintage.
Okay. All right. Got it. Amazing. Sweet. Yeah. I mean, is there anything before we wrap up, is there anything you want us or like want the world to know about vintage or about kind of this realm and world that you're so passionate about?
Everyone should be buying vintage and stop buying fast fashion.
Yes.
But
Yes.
more importantly than anything else, no matter what you buy, I think people need to start putting much more effort into caring for their garments and less disposable. Even if it's a piece that is disposable, right? Or is a fast fashion piece. There's no reason why you shouldn't cherish that piece and take good care of it. So I want people to start learning how to mend or knowing who to go to mend and to fix their things. And all because something has a hole doesn't mean that it goes in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Upcycle that. Upcycle that holy blazer.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, that's all for today's episode of You Know Too Much. A huge thank you to Amanda Samuel for sharing her insights into vintage fashion, its history, and the stories hidden inside the clothes we wear.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, leave us a review, glowing, 5 stars only, and share it with someone who'd love it. Explore more episodes and behind-the-scenes content at youknowtoomuch.media.
Follow us on Instagram and YouTube to keep the obsession going. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in. Until next time.